This is Barry McKnight, the voice of the Troy Trojans. You're tuned in to the Phillip Jordan Show podcast.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday to you, and welcome into another edition of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. I'm your host, Phillip Jordan, in-studio host and producer of Dutch World Football on 96.9 The Legend. Cover Auburn for the Auburn Wire and Alabama over at Last Word on college football. We got a fun show for you guys here on this Friday. We're going to be previewing the Crimson Tide SEC Media Days up next week, and joining me in just a few moments will be Matt Stahl from AL.com. We will get into SEC Media Days, kind of what he thinks is going to be the key talking points, the storylines involving Alabama, Kalen DeBoer for Media Days. Then we'll jump into a preview. I also talk about the quarterback situation, Ty Simpson, what he could do to players around him. We'll talk about defense a little bit on the schedule. Before jumping into all that, let's you guys make find me in the podcast. Find me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast available on all your favorite podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're on our podcast, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review, and I'll read it on a future edition of the show. Also, check out the show over on YouTube at Phillip Jordan Sports. Hey, please subscribe there as well. And also, you can email me at sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. Now, let's jump into it. My conversation with Matt Stahl from AL.com previewing the Crimson Tide. Everybody joining me on the show today is Matt Stahl. You can check him out over at AL.com, where he covers the Alabama Crimson Tide and Hugh Freeze's latest golf expeditions out there. But anyways, Matt, appreciate you coming on.
Oh, anytime. And just to get it off the bat, Hugh was not on the golf course today. Auburn recruiting saved for the time being.
Well, I would use that term saved loosely with the way it's been going here lately. But yeah, I mean, it's like we're right around the corner, football season. So SEC Media Days are next week. I know you'll be there. And, that's kind of what are for people who have not attended SEC Media Days, especially from the journalism side of things, what is that week like?
So I always liken it to the first day of school, right? Like, you show up and all your friends are there, and it's, like that part's a good time. Like, it's great to see people from like across the league you don't see all the time. But then it's like, well, you actually got to work now. And most of the work that week, it's got to the point where it's kind of, I don't know. It's really boring stuff in a lot of these press conferences. I think back in the day, like, people would go to this thing and write like their newspaper, college football preview off of it, and then like hold some stuff back to break out the week of the game that the team you cover might play a different team. You can't do that at all anymore, just because everything's on social media immediately. So you spend a lot of time just writing kind of nothing stories. Anytime somebody says something halfway interesting, it goes out immediately. So a lot of that, but yeah, beyond that, it's just, get to hang out with your friends in Atlanta. So that's kind of fun.
That's what I always hear a lot of people say coming out of it, wherever SEC Media Days is at, just kind of hanging out with the other journalists, writers, podcasters, radio hosts, all that, just kind of getting together. That's probably the fun part of it. So at Alabama, they announced who's going to go. So offensive lineman Caden Proctor, defensive lineman Tim Keenan III, and then Deontay Lawson, linebacker. So those three guys, good list of guys, but I know he's a sophomore, and we'll probably be reminded of it every football game we watch this season. Any surprise that Ryan Williams was not one of them, or do you think they just kind of save that for next year?
No, I think they're probably saving that more for next year. It didn't surprise me. This year Ryan's old enough to buy a lottery ticket, so long as he goes over across the Mississippi state line, because we got the lottery in Alabama. But
yes, they'll let us know he's 18 now.
Oh yeah. Well, he was 17 last year. Did you hear about that? It was big news.
It's just like, did you know that Bo Nix's dad played for Auburn?
Yeah. Yeah, but no, it didn't really surprise me, especially given kind of Alabama's MO with this. And, I think they took some veteran players who I, you know, I think, Caden could come back for another year, but if he goes and balls out, like this is probably his last year in Tuscaloosa. So, for a lot of these schools, I think going on this trip, sort of a lifetime achievement award for some of their older players.
Yeah, and of course, and then, Tim Keenan and Deontay Lawson, those are seniors. So,
yes.
Again, so last shot for a lot of these guys. So with Kalen DeBoer, what do you see as the major storyline or talking point surrounding Alabama for media days next week?
I think people will be sort of just asking him about dealing with the expectations in Alabama, which he's been asked about before, but like we're not an especially creative bunch at the SEC Media Days podium. So I think he'll get asked a lot about that. He'll get asked about the quarterback battle. Ty Simpson still in the lead. Not breaking any news here on that. They sent him to Manning Passing Academy. He's been the one sort of out when there's some community thing that requires the quarterback. So I'd fully expect him to be the starter game 1 against Florida State, but I'm sure Kalen will get asked about it, and he'll probably get asked about all 3 quarterbacks. And just sort of biggest issues from last season. I think the big one being consistency, where, the classic example being you go beat number 1 Georgia, or whatever Georgia was. I think they were 1. And then the next week go lose to Vanderbilt. So I'm sure he'll get asked plenty about that. So yeah, I'm not expecting any big surprises out of him just on the Media Days podium.
And it feels like, of course, one of the big things too, everybody looks forward to media days is at the end of the week when the projections come out, where everybody's going to place everybody, because it gives guys like me, guys like you, something to talk about, something to write about as well, where they place. I feel like everybody's going to have Texas at 1, and I just think Georgia will probably be 2. Where do you see Alabama probably laying out there when the projections come out at the end of next week?
See, I avoid voting in those projections. They send me 15 emails through the week, and I ignore all of them. But I think Bama will be like floating around 3rd in the SEC. I think they are a playoff caliber team this season. I don't know that they're going to be the number 1 team in the SEC. I think Texas is really good. I think Georgia's really good. There's other good teams in the SEC. But yeah, I'd put Alabama at the number 3, and I think they'll slide into the playoffs somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like there's just a lot of teams that could kind of be in that mix. LSU should always be. Offensively, we're never going to be good, but defensively,
LSU. I forgot about LSU. Yes, LSU. I think could also be right at the top there. I might even flip. I might put LSU at 2 and Georgia down below Alabama, just because I don't know what Gunnar Stockton's going to be for Georgia. As a full-time starter.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with me with Georgia. And every time I say this, I'll have to preface this, because if for some reason someone tried to aggregate something I said, which I don't know why anybody would come after this small little podcast. But I look at Georgia not as a team I think is not going to be good, but they just got questions. We don't quarterback, and really not just quarterback, the wide receiver position. That was a struggle for them last year, even with Carson Beck there. I feel like Georgia offensively has a lot of questions, more than they've had in previous years coming in. Playoff team, I'm 100% on that. But, I could see them, if they struggle at quarterback early, having some issues. I just feel like they are a more vulnerable team than they have been going into a season in a good bit.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with that. And I don't know that any media company is going to aggregate you, but you know who is? Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart's going to watch this. He's going to clip all this and talk about how this is the national media is doubting Georgia, thinks Georgia's going to win 4 games this year. Georgia's nothing, and then they're going to win the national championship. That's just how it's going to go.
Yeah, the headline will be, Dothan guy who covers Auburn and Alabama picks Georgia to be bad. Even though I did not say that. I did put them in the playoff in that statement, but that part will be completely edited out. If Kirby sees it. Hey, if Kirby sees it, you want to come on the show and disagree with me, I'd be happy to have you on the Phillip Jordan show. And you talked about people. One of the things probably we talked about a lot with Alabama is recruiting. Alabama has been on fire in June and July with recruiting. They are right now, according to 24/7 Sports, number 5 nationally. They've got about 4 or 5 stars. A couple teams from the other team I cover, Auburn guys they were hoping to get, but just I think coming in when DeBoer was hired, a lot of people had questions. Whenever there's an outsider from the conference, how can he recruit? How well will he do? He is doing really great because he also brought in a top class from 2025. Just what's been your overall takeaway with the success Alabama's had in recruiting so far?
Well, I think it was a lot like what Caitlin said when he came in. Like that first class relied a lot kind of on the West Coast, and they still definitely have those connections out there. Like you can see it sort of in the class. But I mean, Auburn really hung their hat last year on being the in-state recruiting champions in truly what was like a down year in like in-state recruiting, right?
Mm-hmm.
This year, not going so hot for them, going real good for Kalen. And it was just a matter of time, right? Like he came in, he still has a really good staff. He's branched out. They've met the high school coaches. Like they know what's going on sort of in the region. And it's really paid off here. You know, they, like you said, bringing in 5 stars. They got 5 stars coming in from Alexander City. They got like EJ Crowell, who's the running back, who's not a 5-star on 24/7, but is on other services. Like it's a really it's going real good. And I don't know what high school recruiting is still worth in this era. I think it maybe establishes your floor more than it establishes your ceiling. But if that's the case, Alabama's floor should be really high for the near future.
Yeah, they bring in a quarterback too, and I probably am going to miss Jet Tamala.
Tamala, sure, we can go with that.
From Omaha, Nebraska, one of the best recruits out of that state. So obviously, you know, we're going to get into the quarterbacks here in a second, but with what you got now, guys looking at, okay, we have another guy coming through that is super talented. I would figure is a developmental player. You don't really want to see him on when he does get to Alabama in 2026, not somebody wants to get on the field right away, but still adding to that quarterback position where you have currently on your roster 3 guys that are talented but very inexperienced.
Yes, and you'd think like if Ty starts this season, balls out, probably goes to the NFL, right? So that clears a name out of there. Austin Mack is the one where like I don't know where he slots in here because you know early returns on Keelan Russell, who was the 5-star in the 2025 class, are like really good. Everybody says he's doing all the right things. Clearly very talented player. Like you'd sort of expect him to be the quarterback of the future for a few years. And then, yeah, I mean, Jet Tamala comes in. I'm sure, I mean, you try and land a quarterback in every single class. So you should have some good talent coming in behind him. So it's one of those things where it's like, you never really know who's going to see the field at Alabama or who's going to, you know, Eli Holstein it and be around for a year or so and then slide out and like be good somewhere else. Like it's just the way it is. Like everybody's not going to be able to play at Alabama for the next little bit here.
Yeah, and another thing, you got to always recruit a position because the transfer portal, that's obviously a position guys want to play. A lot of guys do not want to wait their turn. Look, Ty Simpson's a guy that has waited. I mean, he's done everything. He's done everything the way you used to do it. You wait behind. I mean, and get your chance to play. And he's super talented. I think one thing with him, I think a lot of people look at him and just think, okay, he's just a statue drop back passer. Well, yes, he is a pocket passer. I think he's very underrated with his athleticism and mobility that he does possess.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he can move around sort of in that, like, you know, prime Aaron Rodgers was not a running quarterback, but like he could go make some plays with his legs if you needed him to, back when he was normal. Or at least
before the dark room and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, before he would just go spend his offseason doing drugs, which, you know, as a Packers fan, didn't love. Sort of glad he's off in Pittsburgh now. But regardless, yeah, Ty Simpson. I mean, you look the 2023 Tennessee Chattanooga game where he got in there and was able to play. I mean, he would have run for a touchdown had he not dropped the ball on the 1-yard line, which I asked him about. Last time I talked to him was at the 2023 Rose Bowl, but he was like, I swear that will never happen again. He's like, I will run through the back of the end zone next time. But yeah, he can get up and move. He's certainly not Jalen Milroe. I don't think they want him to be Jalen Milroe, but he can.
That'd be a good thing.
Yeah, he can certainly go make some plays with his legs if you need him to.
And on the Packer front, 2 Packer helmets back there. So everybody knows where my allegiance lies. So I'm all on the Aaron Rodgers stuff there. And your receiver, coming in after season, you had Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard. Obviously, we've talked about Ryan Williams, super talented player. I mean, let's face it, if the guy could go pro after this year, he's a first-round draft pick, without a doubt. And then Jeremy Bernard can make some big plays. He played well in the Iron Bowl, had over 100 yards against Auburn. But bringing in Isaiah Horton, bringing in that third guy, he was really good at Miami with what they were doing last year. Now you got these 3 wide receivers. They've got talented backs. They've got linemen come back. We talked about Caden Proctor. So really, the quarterback, and we're going to go with Ty Simpson here because if he asked Ryan Grubb, he would be the starter tomorrow if they had to play a game. He's got the pieces around him to be successful.
Yes, absolutely. Like I think this offense could be a lot better than last season. The Isaiah Horton thing is going to be big, I think, just because he's like a guy who can sort of go take the top off of defense, maybe, and will get some real opportunities, sort of in the same way Jeremy Bernard did, where Jeremy Bernard just always seemed like he was open. And I think it was in part because defenses started really keying in on Ryan Williams. So he'll get his touches. Obviously, Ryan will get his touches. But Isaiah Horton, I think, can maybe take some heat off of both of them. But also, like he's somebody who could very much benefit from people selling out to stop Ryan Williams. Also, the sleeper I think could have a really good season is Jalen Hale, who's coming off a big had a leg injury before last season, missed the whole year, but he's back at it, and I think people are maybe expecting some big things from him coming up. But yeah, overall this offense, if they get the right quarterback in there, you'd like to maybe see the running back room sort of step it up, whether that's just Jam Miller taking the next step or Richard Young. They've not really had that kind of dominant back that you've seen in the past from Alabama during the Nick Saban years. But if those 2 positions come together, you're in really, really, really good shape if you're Alabama.
Yeah, flipping over on the defense side of the ball, when I look at what they have coming back, the secondary, they have a lot of experience. I mean, you got Damani Jackson, you've got Xavier Brown, Bray Hubbard, Keon Sabb coming back. That group right there is solid. Of course, we talked about Tim Keenan and then Deontay Lawson. You have Rusal coming back as well at linebacker. A lot of good pieces there. How do you see this Alabama defense shaping up, which on paper should be one of the best, not in the SEC. I think they have the ability to be one of the best in the country.
Yes, absolutely. I think year 2 under Kane Womack in that defensive system, you saw him improve a lot toward the end of the season last year. There were situations against Vanderbilt and Tennessee where it just seemed unprepared, but you saw him just, I think, trending a lot better towards the end of the year, solved some of those problems. Bray Hubbard's the one I think is the truth. By all accounts, he's going to be really, really awesome. Keon Sabb coming back. That's going to be big. Obviously, they're expecting big things from Tim Keenan at that nose guard spot. His last year in Tuscaloosa. And then the big one to watch for me is LT Overton, who played really well last year, had a lot of quarterback hurries, got his hands on the quarterback a bunch of times, and it just seemed like the quarterbacks were buttered. They seemed to always just slide out of the sack on him. So if he can finish some of those sacks, I think he could be just one of the SEC's really top pass rushers from that spot.
I remember when he transferred to Alabama, and I kept seeing the headlines, LT Overton. This is just a side. This has nothing to do with really anything. It confused me. I thought Alabama got a new left tackle. Just his name, when you see it in a news press release, it's not worded just right. You can just glance. I said, left tackle, but no, he's a talent. So
they got defensive end LT Overton and linebacker QB Reese on the team.
These abbreviations and initials and all that other stuff. They got to do better when it comes to football stuff. The schedule. So they open up with the very tough Florida State Seminoles. Now we know what their quarterback has been saying. So that Saban's not here to save them. Gus Malzahn will be on the sideline, so there's some similar stuff there. Of course, the Florida State fans are wanting to beat Alabama just because of the college football playoff from a couple of years ago. But still, I think that is a good test for Alabama to open, especially when you are bringing a new quarterback. You're going on the road. It's in Tallahassee. I think Florida State, the fans will fill out that game just because Alabama's coming in, and they're looking because Florida State's completely flipped the roster again with portal and bringing in new people. But also the rest of the schedule. And I look at Alabama's schedule and I look at the road schedule at Florida State, at Georgia, at Missouri. We'll see how they are at South Carolina and at Auburn. So the away schedule is, to me, seems very pivotal for them going into for them making the college football playoff, because I think that's where they struggled a lot last season, was when they got away from Bryant-Denny.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, boy, that Iron Bowl. I'll say this: just going in, I'm picking Auburn. I don't care if Alabama is 11-0 and Auburn is 0-11. I think I'm picking Auburn in the Iron Bowl this year, regardless, just because I think there's just too much voodoo in that stadium for them to lose again. And that's unscientific. That's not seeing what either team has been so far. It's just vibes. I don't think Auburn's losing the Iron Bowl in Jordan-Hare again this year. But then that Florida State game, boy, I wouldn't want to be the coach who loses it. I'll say that. It should be a good test for Alabama going in. I mean, it's a game that they will definitely be favored in. They should definitely win. That was the issue last year, though. Easy to forget as they sort of do the Alabama playoff propaganda stuff, that it was not the hard SEC games or the trip to Wisconsin or whatever that did in Alabama last season. It was losing to mediocre Vanderbilt, mediocre Oklahoma on the road. So this is exactly the kind of game that it felt like Alabama would maybe drop last year. And if you can go win that sort of thing this year, obviously you got really tough games that you're going to have to win later on in the schedule. It's the SEC. That is what it is. But that's a good barometer that maybe you fix some of the issues that hurt you last year.
Yeah, when I looked at their schedule, I saw that South Carolina, because South Carolina's going to come into the season with a lot of hype. Because there are a lot of people saying, well, last year that was a team that if they could have gotten to the playoff, they thought could have maybe won a game or two, just because how well they're playing. Lenore Sellers he's on a lot of draft boards for a lot of people, and going there, that's going to be that's I feel like that is one of the more tougher places to play, but a very underrated away venue in the SEC.
Oh, absolutely. I've been there once, and it gets loud. The fans care. It's a weird stadium, right? It's just much more just concrete, almost angry architecture than anywhere else in the league. And they're going to be good this year. I mean, Dylan Stewart too, that guy's just unbelievable. They shelled out and really kept some of their good talent from last year. So that's underrated sort of scary game for Alabama on the schedule here.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Like I said, the road games are so interesting with them. It looks like their biggest games most of the way this year will be on the road. So it's going to be fun. Of course, you're going to have a good time at SEC Media Days, I'm sure, next week. Matt, if the listeners, viewers want to check it out, where can they find you?
It's all over AL.com. Also on whatever socials, Matt Stahl 97.
All right, everybody, go check out Matt. Does a great job covering Alabama, and Hugh Freeze on the golf course. Go check them out. SEC Media Days. He'll have plenty of coverage. And Matt, I appreciate the time, and I look forward when we get to this again.
Anytime.
All right. Once again, thanks to Matt Stahl for coming on today's edition of the show. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be an interesting season for Alabama. A lot of pressure, I believe, on Kalen DeBoer after last year going 9-4. And the losses they had mentioned against Vanderbilt, you lost to Tennessee. Tennessee was a playoff team, so that's a little bit different there. Losing Oklahoma, losing to Michigan in the bowl game. Alabama looked very undisciplined at the time. I felt like last season with Alabama, so he was too far away from what Saban was. I know you don't need to emulate what Nick Saban was as a coach, but it was just so far the other direction. And we kind of saw some of those issues being undisciplined in the last year or two with Nick Saban. He got even worse last year. And offensively with Alabama, they were a big play offense, but long drives were not their cup of tea, I don't think. Long, sustained drives. So interesting to see how Ty Simpson, again, there's plenty of talent running back and receiver, offensive line, everything around him. The defense should be really good. I think Alabama has potential to be one of the better defenses, not just in the SEC, But in college football, they can be a playoff team. I believe that with this team, a top 4, top 5 SEC team. Still think Texas and Georgia, and I'll probably put LSU ahead of them right now, just with the quarterback Garrett Nussmeier coming back. But Alabama has potential to be really good. And there's some other teams in the SEC we just don't know a lot about because with transfer portal and everything else, these rosters are so much different every single year. We just don't know. So it will be very intriguing and interesting to see how Alabama does. So in SEC Media Days are next week. Will probably be the next week. We'll kind of to jump that. Right now, only one pod next week is the plan. We did 2 this week. Looks like only 1 next week, and that will probably be on Tuesday. So we might recap day 1 of SEC Media Days on that day. Then the following week, look more into the whole week of SEC Media Days, talking about where everybody finished up and all that good stuff. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Of course, I am Phillip Jordan. Thank you for checking out the podcast. And yeah, please check it out on our podcast, Spotify. Share it out with your friends. Let them know what you should be listening to. The Phillip Jordan Show. And everybody has a great weekend. Have fun. Maybe watching some NBA Summer League this week. Auburn players are playing pretty well in that one. There's some interesting stuff there. I have some thoughts on that. And it looks like the whole NCAA college basketball tournament could be expanding. I have thoughts. We'll get into some of that stuff next week. But anyways, until next time, bye-bye.